Here's how to prevent objections from happening in your prospect's mind. Come over to the vibe board here. I'm going to show you about 5 to 6 different questions you can use right now, no matter what your industry is, that will actually seed in your prospect's mind and prevent objections from happening that you are losing sales from right now. Come over to the vibe board. I'm going to show you how this works. And somebody says, how do you handle no response? Well, what if I trained you? And what if I told you you could actually prevent most of the objections from happening in your prospect's mind? That's called objection prevention, okay? That's the one thing that you might not understand, okay? See, top 1% salespeople, when I was in the trenches for almost 18 years, I sold in two companies that were in B2B, so one high-level enterprise level, okay, debt relief services, talking to Fortune 1000 companies around that ballgame, top 3,000 companies in the United States. And I also sold SMB, and then I sold in 2 industries that were all B2C, business to consumer, okay? 2 B2C, 2 B2B. Now, the reason why as you might not have known, maybe you don't know, but when I was in the trenches like you, I was ranked as one of the top 50 salespeople in the world selling anything in any industry. You ever seen that ranking? Okay, not just the #1 salesperson in the company I sold for, not the #1 in my industry, but the #1 in any industry. I was number 45 in the world in any industry selling anything, making close to about $3 million a year in commissions in those jobs. Now that doesn't mean you're going to make that for your career. I don't know what pay plan you're on. I don't know what skills you have or what you've learned. So I'm not, in no way am I saying that you're going to get those same results, okay? Now, what I am saying is though, salespeople that get to that level, or even in the top 1% in their industry, they are more focused on preventing objections from happening in the prospect's mind rather than trying to overcome them at the end, okay? Now, it doesn't mean you're going to prevent every objection and you're never going to get an objection ever again. I do not mean that, okay? But type in me if you want to learn some questions that I'm going to show you today, some examples that works for any industry, because we train 161 different industries, including yours, watching me here in this 7th level shirt. How many industries are there in the world? According to Forbes magazine, there's only 163 in the world. There's subcategories of each one. We're in all of those, 161 of 163. So if anybody says, do you train mortgage brokers? Do you train real estate agents? Do you train solar? Do you train employee benefits? Do you train cybersecurity? Whatever you ask me, I'm going to say what? Yes, because we train every industry. What else am I supposed to say? Okay, so I'm going to show you some generic ones that are going to work for any industry right here. Okay? Now, I'm going to show you these questions that can help you prevent the objections you're getting by up to 50 to 70%. That's what our clients say to us, okay? That's what happened to me when I was selling in the trenches like you. I prevented most of the objections from happening. Now, type in me if you actually understand what causes an objection in the prospect's mind. Does anybody know what causes an objection in your prospect's mind? Did the prospect plan out an objection before you called, before you met with them, before you got on Zoom with them? Did they plan it all out? Did they wake up that morning and say, you know what, Josh, he owns that marketing agency. I need leads, but about 5 minutes in, I think, when I get on Zoom with him, I'm going to throw out an objection like this, and I'm going to say, hey, enough with the questions. Just tell me how much it's going to cost, and I'll tell you if I'm interested. Did the prospect plan that out before they got on the sales conversation with you? No. That's a triggered reaction. Somebody said lack of information. That doesn't cause objections. Lack of certainty causes objections. Information alone does not cause a prospect to have 100% certainty. Information is research mode. I've got lots of information, I'm researching everything, but that doesn't mean they're emotionally going to buy. Information is logical. How do human beings make buying decisions? On emotion, not logic. Brain size, there's no debate. There's literally zero debate on this in behavioral science. That's what I went to school for. There's no debate on how your brain makes decisions. Nobody's brain makes decisions logically. It all starts with your emotions. Let me show you. I feel like a drink of water. Feel like a drink of water because I'm thirsty. That decision started with my emotional side of the brain. I feel thirsty. So I need a drink of water because I want to quench that thirst. Logical. I justify with logic. I feel like doing this training call for you to help you sell more. I feel like. You feel like listening to me because you want to learn how to sell more. See, your decisions, every decision you make starts with your emotional side of the brain. There's no decision you will ever make on your logical side of the brain. As a human being, you can't. If your emotional side of your brain gets damaged in a car accident, you're a vegetable. You can't decide to go pee. You can't decide to drink water. You can't decide to eat food. You can't decide to talk. Every decision you make starts with your emotional side of the brain. Then you justify it with logic, okay? And it's how you actually ask the questions in the first place that causes the prospect to either emotionally open up, okay? And that builds certainty. Now, lack of certainty is what causes objections. Now, what causes a prospect to have certainty in what you're offering? There's many things. I could do a 50-hour training on that. I'll give you a little overview. Lack of certainty in a prospect is caused by the salesperson. Not by, here's a bunch of information. That does not cause certainty. Certainty is caused by you. Lack of certainty or certainty. Now you can cause 100% certainty or very close to that by what questions you ask and how you ask them with the right tone that causes the prospect to internalize and think deeper about the question you asked. Some of you ask your questions so fast that you literally give your prospects no time to internalize what you asked, and that's why they give you vague, generalized, surface-level answers. Surface-level answers are logical based, and they never open up emotionally, okay? So there's a lot of things you have to learn how to prevent objections from happening. Doesn't mean you're never going to get one. But how many more sales would you make right now? Type in the chat. I want to know in the comments your thoughts. How many more sales do you feel you would make on a weekly basis if you knew how to prevent half of the objections you're getting now? Just half. If you knew how to prevent half of the objections you lose sales from right now, how many more sales would you make on a weekly basis? Type it in the chat. Okay? What are some of the example questions though? Yeah, or Ash. I'm coming, Ash, but I've got to explain why you're asking the questions. If I don't explain why you should ask them, you wouldn't know how to use them, my man. You know, I don't have to give you these questions. I'm not making you pay for it. I'm giving these to you for free. You got to be nice to me if you want to give me these questions, brother. Come on now, let's go. You be nice to me. Give that man a Snickers bar over there. You need a Snickers bar, my man. All right, now, let's show you what questions. Now, so these are called what are called NEPQ questions, neuro-emotional persuasion questions. Now, we have to teach you not just the right questions to ask, but how to use your tone when you ask the questions, because there are different tones for different questions, okay? There's a curious tone, there's a confused tone in certain contexts, okay? There's a challenging tone that sometimes you have to use for certain questions. There's a concerned tone, a tone that shows empathy. And then there's other questions you have to ask in more of a playful tone, okay, that actually opens them up and causes them laugh. Now, are you 100% sure the questions you're using now are the best questions you could? Are you 100% sure you know how to use your tonality to get your prospects to let their guard down and emotionally open up to you? Because if you're not 100% sure, that means you're just losing sales that you could be making. All right, perfect. Now, here's what I'm talking about, okay? If you hear, now I'm going to give you a few different examples on questions you can use and how to use your tone, okay, that prevent a lot of the objections your prospects give you from even happening in their brain. How do I prevent objections from happening? Way easier to sell when I can prevent most objections from happening rather than having to go through 6 objections at the end. Now, it doesn't mean you don't have to learn how to handle objections, but if you can prevent half of them from happening, it just makes selling way easier for you. You get way more laydowns, just easier, okay? Now, never buy into the myth that the more objections a prospect gives you, You ever heard a sales trainer says, the more objections you get, the more interested they are? How the hell does that make any sense? Anybody have any evidence that the more objections you get, the more interested they are? That's just stupid. That doesn't make any sense. Think about all the laydown sales you got. They didn't give you any objections. So how does that make sense? Take this to the bank. The more objections you get from your prospect, the more uncertainty you have triggered in their brain and less likely they are to buy. Take that to the bank every time. The less objections you get, because you get good at preventing them, you will sell way more. Doesn't mean you'll never get one, but it's way easier to help a prospect overcome one, okay, if you've triggered more certainty in their brain. You will have less objections and they will be way easier for you to help them overcome, okay? How much does your course cost? I don't have one course. We're a large sales training company. We're the third largest in the United States, ranked on our revenues, according to like Selling Power magazine. That's a big publication that publishes who the top 20 sales training companies are in the world every year. We're the third ranked in the United States, number 4 in the entire world. So we're a fairly large sales training company. We have, I want to say 36, 37 different sales training programs, not just one. So just DM me, just message me directly on Instagram and you can talk to our people and see if one of those fits into what you're looking for if you want to sell more, okay? All right, perfect. All right, so if you hear certain things from your prospect that are red flags for you, now type in me if there are certain words your prospects use or questions they ask that like immediately are a red flag to you. Like, is this going to cost a lot of money? That would be a red flag for a lot of industries, right? Because you're like, what do they even mean by that, okay? So type in me if there are red flags or words that your prospects use or questions they ask that immediately when you hear them, you're like, okay, red flag. Red flag, that is a red flag, okay? So in this first example, I'm going to show you that. So if you see, especially if you see body language, okay? So if you see body language that shows they have a concern or they're not understanding what you just went over, or maybe they're upset, they're closed off, or if their tonality sounds that way. Now, if you're ever a client of ours, one of the biggest things we're going to train you how to master is to listen to what your prospect means, not just what they say. Let me repeat that. If you ever become a client of ours, we train you, one big thing we train you is how to master to listen to what the prospect means, not just what they say. Those can be two completely different things, okay? And I'll show you some examples here. So how do you ask questions to seed in their mind and prevent an objection from happening? So if you hear certain words or questions or you see their body language or their tone sounds off, what are some questions you can ask to seed in their brain to prevent that objection from happening later on when you go through your presentation or when you try to close? Type in me if you want to learn that, because I'm about to show you that, okay? All right, let me start here. I'm going to get a drink of water. You guys are making me thirsty. Okay, now, let me give you this example. In this first example, I'm going to show you some that are business to business and some that are business to consumer, because we got all sorts of industries watching us here on Instagram and the Facebook group here. So let's say that you're in a boardroom, okay? Or you could be on Zoom and you're meeting virtually and you're meeting 8 decision makers real quick, okay? You only have met with 2 of them so far. You've got 2 C-level executives, you know, that are all in. They know they have problems as an organization. They want your solution, but the other 6 decision makers don't know that because you've never met with them before. So you're on Zoom with them now, or you're in person, okay? And let's say that you're starting to go through your slides, okay? And you notice when you go through slide 11 right here, okay, that Karen, when you start explaining slide 11, Karen folds her arms like this and kind of looks up and kind of grimaces her face, like she doesn't understand, or she doesn't believe you, or she has a concern. So she folds her arms, Karen does, and she, now no offense if your name is Karen, I've just made up a name, could Bill, Karen, whoever it is. So you see, after you go through slide 11, they just fold their arms, they seem unsure, they don't understand something, or they don't believe you, or they don't think what you just said is true, or it wouldn't work for them. Type at me if you've ever gotten that. And it could be if you're talking to an individual and you sell B2C, they could do like this and be like, I'm not, like they don't understand. They're not saying anything, okay? So, what do? You've got two options when you see that, okay? So you have two options when you see that. The first option is you can do this. This is what most salespeople do right here. Option number one, this is probably what 99% of salespeople would do. They would hope and pray that everything's okay and keep going through their pitch, and hopefully that wins Karen over and everybody else. That's what most salespeople would do. They just hope and pray that whatever Karen just did with her body language, okay, that it's going to be okay. They'll just keep going through their presentation and it's going to work. Hope and pray method. We call that hopium. That's a drug that most salespeople take. That is a very hard and unpredictable way to make a living as a salesperson, or to really scale your business to where you could be if you run the business. Very hard. Now, my second option is, should we find out what is behind Karen giving you that nonverbal message through her body language to prevent an objection when you try to close? So option number one, we hope and pray. We just keep going through it. We ignore what Karen just did with her body language. We hope and pray that the rest of the presentation is going to win everybody over, all the decision makers. Or should we find out what's behind Karen giving us that nonverbal message with her arms and her facial expressions and prevent an objection from happening when you try to close them? Type in option one or option number two. I can show you either or. What would you do? Option number one, hope and pray it's going to work out. Just ignore it. Keep going through the presentation. Just hope and pray it's going to work out. Or option number two, I want to find out what's behind her doing that. Number two, right? Everybody's saying number two. I would hope so. Good Lord. If you say option number one, you're just losing a ton of deals that you should be making, quite literally. Now, this is, write this down. This is important for you, okay? This is called, right here, this is called, move this for everybody. This is called a NEPQ diffusing question. NEPQ diffusing question, okay? So here's what I'm going to do. Hey, Karen. Hey, I noticed when I went over XYZ on that last slide, you seemed a bit hesitant. What's behind that? Just so I understand. That's all you're going to do. Let me repeat myself. Okay, I'll kind of move over here so you can see me on Instagram. Okay, everybody's seeing me here in the Facebook room at desktop. So you're going to just do like, hey, Karen. Now, if I'm on Zoom, I'm just going to do like this. Hey, Karen, can I ask you something? Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Jeremy. Hey, I noticed when I went over XYZ on that last slide, you seemed a bit hesitant. What's behind that? Just so I understand. See, I softened my tone into a concerned tone, a tone that shows empathy. Now, what's Karen going to do? Nope, you cannot find out what was behind that. She's not going to do that. Oh, well, when you went through that slide, I didn't understand how we would be able to integrate that with our XYZ. That's a really good question. Is everybody else asking that question as well here in the room? Is everybody else asking that question here on Zoom? And now I'm there to do what? Answer the question and what? Prevent the objection from happening when I try to close. See what I just did there? Now let me repeat it to you again. I want you to watch this, okay? Hey, Karen. Yeah, hey, I noticed when I went over that last slide, you seemed a bit hesitant. Can I ask what's behind that, just so I understand? Soft tone, concerned tone, a tone that shows empathy. Now, what would happen if I use this tone? Hey, Karen. Yeah, hey, when I went through that last slide, you seemed like you didn't, like something was going on with that. Can you tell me what's going on? See, that's a defensive tone. Pretty much said the same words, but now I might get a defensive reaction from Karen. Oh, well, we can cover it later. I just need to talk with our XYZ department to see if this is even going to work. Hey, Karen. Hey, can I ask you something? Yeah, you know. Hey, I noticed when I went over that last slide where we were talking about X and Y and how it integrates, you seemed a bit hesitant. Can I ask what's behind that, just so I understand? Concern tone. See, a concern tone, a tone that shows empathy, causes the prospect to let their guard down and open up and tell you the concern, tell you what's on their mind. They didn't understand something. Now I don't get that objection. See how I prevented the objection from happening. Flow Master Kyle says, that haircut is brutal, bro. All right, well, Flow Master Kyle on IG, if you could please show me the right haircut to get, I would love that, man, because it's so embarrassing having this haircut. I walk down the street and just people laugh at me, they make fun of me. I just can't believe it, man. So Flow Master Kyle, if you could please send me pictures of the best haircut I could get, or at least send a picture of your haircut so we can all analyze it. We would really love that, man. Kyle, we love you, dude. Say, get Kyle a Snickers bar. He's a little bit upset about everybody's hairdos in here. I know I got the 2 parts here. You know, forgot the hairspray up here this morning. Looking horrible. Kyle, thanks for calling me out, man. If you could please give me the right hairspray and the right gel so I can have the great hair like you, I would love to do that, man. And Anthony says, bro, you got to do something about that hair. Anthony, just please send me a picture of the hair, man. Just if you could please just send me a picture of your hairdo with the right gel and the right stuff, because man, we know, man, this hair's horrible. Like, people just make fun of me all the time. Like, you know, big corporations, they make fun of me. Clients, they make fun of me all day long. What are we gonna do with you? All right, so Anthony and Kyle, somebody on here on IG, please give those gentlemen some Snickers bars. They're a little bit grumpy today. It's getting late in the day. They need some Snickers bar there. You know, you get Snickers bars. Okay, somebody give those men a Snickers bar. Hey, hold on. Hey guys, please, we need to mail Snickers bars for a couple of these people on Instagram. We got to get their addresses there if you can get on the live. All right, Kyle and Anthony, Christina at the front desk, she's got you handled. Just send over your addresses here. We will mail you Snickers bars, an entire donation of Snickers bars for the entire year. So you're just not grumpy anymore, man. We love you. Okay, all right, let's go to the next slide. What are we going to do with Kyle and Anthony? Good Lord. All right, now, here's some various changes that you could do here. Now, take a look at these, okay? I could also say, hey, John, you seem a bit hesitant when I talked about XYZ. Can you tell me what's going on? Or, John, you seemed a bit unsure when I was talking about ABC and how we could do D, B, and A. Can you tell me what's going on? You seemed a bit unsure when I was talking about X. Can you tell me a little bit more about what's going on? And I use a concern tone, a tone that shows empathy. They open up and tell me what they didn't understand, and then I'm there to do what? Answer that, so I prevent that objection from happening after the presentation or proposal when I'm trying to close. Do you see what I'm doing there? You seem a bit hesitant. Can I ask what's going on? Now, you don't want to get on a sales call and in the first 30 seconds, if you trigger sales resistance, and 30 seconds later you're like, hey, you seem a bit hesitant, what's going on? Click. You can't ask that question too quick in a conversation, because you don't have hardly any trust or credibility in the first 30 seconds if the prospect's a bit mean to you. You can't then say, you seem a bit hesitant, John, what's behind that? They're going to be like, F off and click. Okay, that is not what I mean. That's further in the conversation if you can sense something's going on, okay? And there's more trust and credibility behind it. That's when you'd use some of that type of stuff. Or I could say it like this, hey, Sally, when I asked you about blank, you seem like you didn't really want to talk about that. Can you tell me what's going on? Hey, Sally, when I asked you about blank, you seemed like you didn't really want to talk about that. Can you tell me what's going on? And don't worry, this is off the record. I'm not going to go post it on social media. You can tell me what's going on. See, I added that in there. And don't worry, this is off the record. Why would I say that? And don't worry. You can tell me this is off the record. I'm not going to go post it on Instagram today. See, I can use a playful tone there. Okay, see what I did? Okay, now here's another one. Okay, This is called a NEPQ commitment question. Okay, if you're one of our clients, you already know all this times 10 billion because you're in our courses every day in our virtual training with myself and our sales trainers. So let's say if I lean in when I'm trying to close and I say, do you feel like this could be the answer for you? And the prospect says, yeah, sure. Now, what did I just hear? Most salespeople, when they get like a yeah, sure, they're like, okay, great, let me show you how to get started. But remember, I want to master to listen to what the prospect means, not just what they say. They said, yeah, sure. But is that what they meant with that tone? No. Now, if I said, do you feel like this could be the answer for you? Yeah, for sure. Like, this is definitely the answer for us. What did I just hear? Certainty in their tonality. Do you see the difference there? But if I get like, yeah, I could see that. I could see that. I just sense uncertainty. I just sense that they're not 100% sure. I just sense that they have a concern that's hiding there that I need to find out to prevent. So I then leaned in and said, you seemed a bit unsure when I asked you that. Off the record, you can tell me what's going on. You seemed a bit unsure when I asked you that last question. You can tell me, this is off the record, what's going on? Concerned tone, a tone that shows empathy, okay? Does that help you? I just showed you a little bitty example right there.